Don, I've got you on speaker here. We can probably just do this by phone today.
All right, that's fine.
I was just talking about Indiana yesterday in the first half, giving up 8 of 17 3-point shots, but in the second half, that was a different story. That changed to 1 of 9, and I'm sure that was a combination of Indiana tuning up the defense a little bit and Harvard maybe not being as accurate, but man, what a difference in halves that was.
There's no question it was a big difference, to say the least. The three-point shooting has been the bugaboo for Indiana's defense so far this year, and they've been able to do this one other time. I think they did give up a bunch of threes. I can't remember the ball game a couple of games ago, not the UConn ball game. They gave up too many threes in the UConn game, but they've had this problem throughout the season of, at least for a half, teams really knocking down threes against them, and then they somehow make a defensive adjustment. But I think that the overhelp that Indiana has sometimes with their defensive assignments, I think, has been one of the problems there. At least that's kind of the diagnosis that Eric Sewer, my color guy, has made, that he feels like they overhelp sometimes and it really costs them because they kick the ball out from that help side. But that being said, I like the adjustment they made at halftime. They certainly played much better in the second half of the ball game. I thought the front line was spectacular yesterday. Obviously, Khalil Ware had his best game of the season. Mbako was good. Renew was very good, as always. Anthony Walker came off the bench and gave him a spark as well. So the front line guys really contributed big time yesterday. They were the key as to Indiana winning that contest against a good Harvard ball club. I like their team a lot.
I was just talking about that before you joined us. I said, hey, this was a good team. They're athletic. They're smart. They play very good, very good defense. They are a good team. I think they're going to be successful in their season ahead. As a matter of fact, it was a good challenge for Indiana because they were giving them all they wanted in the first half with those 3-point shots hitting them. But Indiana ramped up the defense in the second half. But that interior play, Khalil Ware is just getting, man, you want to talk about someone improving each game and looking more and more confident. It's that man right there.
Well, that's true. I mean, Khalil is one of those guys that the knock on him coming from Oregon was that he did not play hard. He didn't work as hard as he needed to. And that's why he basically got out of there, because they didn't like, I don't know if it was the personality or just the effort level that he put out on the floor, whatever the case. Khalil said, from my perspective, I've got to go someplace else. And I know what Mike Woodson told him, because Woodson's told us in his press conferences that, hey, the book is out on you. You don't play hard. You're not motivated. And if you're going to come here, you're going to have to play hard, and you're going to have to be motivated if you want to play it, get on the floor. And I think that message sent to Khalil has definitely, without question, been heated. And I think Khalil Ware right now is playing his best basketball of his college career here in his second season.
Well, without question, man, he 28 points yesterday on 12 of 13 shooting. And these were not layups. While they were around the basket, most of them, these were tough contested shots.
They were tough contested shots. I will give you that, because every time he touches the basketball, there's 2 guys around him, and sometimes 3. And yeah, they're banging on it pretty good, and he's handling it, and he's been able to score through those tough hits that he's been taking. And the thing I like about him is he's not ashamed, or he does continue to take those tough shots and gets banged around, and then he takes care of things at the free throw line. He was 3 for 5, so it wasn't a great day at the stripe for him, but he did make a couple of 3-point plays the old-fashioned way yesterday, and I like that from the rest of this team too. I think Malik Renew has really embraced that scenario as well. And we finally saw Mackenzie Mbako have a breakout ball game and play the most minutes by far that he's played in any game this season. And even though 2 of his 3-point shots that we thought were threes were taken away, he still was able to knock down shots from outside, and that's something Indiana needs desperately. Absolutely.
18 points for him. He was the leading scorer for the half, but until Who am I looking
Where?
at? Yes, until Kal-El took over, but that second half, a big second half. But everyone seemed to be balanced. McKenzie Mbako had 9 in the first half, 9 in the second half, so it's not like he went away. He was equally involved in the game, like you said. But more importantly, he took a shot about a minute in that was one of the threes that was taken away and turned out to be a 2. It didn't matter. He took that shot. He looked very comfortable. He looked comfortable taking his shots yesterday, whether they went in or not, and I think that's going to be important for this team going forward.
No question. I know Mike has been looking for him to step up and start making some plays and being able to knock down some shots. He did that yesterday, and that should bode his confidence as we go into the Big Ten portion of the early season schedule this coming week.
Yeah, the biggest question, Don, is Indiana has to get better guard play. They have to get more scoring out of their guards. That's the one thing they didn't. I know X was pretty much hobbled yesterday, but they haven't been getting from the guards what they are going to need in order to be a successful team this year.
Well, the guy that's really struggling with his shot right now is Trey Galloway. He has lost his confidence. It looks to me like he was 0 for 4 yesterday. Trying to look back here just to see what he was in the Louisville contest, because he struggled in that game as well. I think Trey in that game, he was 0 for 4 in that ball game. And the previous ball game against Connecticut, he was 1 of 3. So he is really, I think it's a confidence thing with him right now. He looks hesitant sometimes when he takes the shot. You can't, if you're a shooter, you can't do it that way. You've got to just be completely confident that you're going to knock down every shot that you take, even though some of them don't go in. And he's a good enough shooter to help this team from the outside. And somebody has to step up, and I still think it's got to be him. But at this juncture, I think he's really dealing with a confidence factor.
Well, when you talk about somebody off the bench, my first go-to name on there is Caleb Banks. I think that, man, every time he comes in, it doesn't matter if you need a rebound. It looks like, hey, there's Caleb. You need a shot. Oh, there goes Caleb. He just seems to be around the ball.
Well, Caleb Banks is an interesting factor here. He's a guy that hit 2 threes yesterday, which, they need that. He's 6'8". He's an athlete. He had 3 rebounds as well. He only played 10 minutes in the ball game. And I don't know what that's all about, because sometimes coaches have reasons for not playing guys, or reasons that they're not on the floor as much as you think they could be or should be. And at this juncture, I can't answer it. But I do know this. Caleb has talents. I thought he was a key contributor in that win over Louisville. He came off the bench in that ball game, and I think he gave Indiana a lot of really good minutes in that game. Even though his stats weren't spectacular, he had 4 points, he had 8 rebounds, he had 3 assists, he had 3 steals, and he had 3 block shots. So he does the little things that you just don't necessarily see all the time, or that you notice that much. And I agree with you. I think he's an X factor for this ball club.
Right along with Anthony Walker, who he is always silent. He had 9 points yesterday, and they're always just kind of quiet, but he was 3 of 4 from the field, 3 of 4 at the line, 4 rebounds. Man, if you get that off the bench every time, you're going to be extraordinarily happy.
Well, they got it off the bench in that Louisville game as well. From him, he had 11 points in that contest, and he had 7 rebounds. That's just part of what he was able to do, and he knocked down every free throw that he shot. So, again, when you have guys that can come off the bench and give you that kind of contribution, and let's face it, the bench had not given Indiana very much this season in the first 3-4 ball games until these last 2. The bench really has contributed in these last 2 ball games significantly. Even Peyton Sparks had a really good game against Louisville. 9 points for him on 4 of 5 shooting, and he had 3 boards. So the bench is going to be a key contributor to this team. It's got to be a key contributor, I think, if this team is going to continue to make strides. And
we could continue to talk about Indiana. They move up to Big Ten play next Friday as they take on a Maryland team that would be coming in to Simon Scott Assembly Hall.
Yeah, they're kind of an enigma right now. I can't quite figure them out. They're only 3-3, I think, on the season at this point. They've got really good players. Jameer Young was he's an All Big Ten player last year. Was really a really good guard. Dante Scott's back for another year. The Reese kid inside is a big physical player, but they haven't been able to put the pieces together yet as consistently as we thought that they would. So those three guys and then some new faces out there, they've got a good ball club. They've got a good coach. It's going to be interesting to see how Indiana fares against this Maryland ball club. And the way they're playing right now, I think Indiana's got a great chance to beat them. And certainly they'll play at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. And then they've got another winnable ball game against the Michigan team that's kind of, I don't want to say floundering at this point, but they haven't found themselves yet either. In fact, there are several teams in the Big Ten right now that are having that problem.
We have to turn our attention to football, of course, as Tom Allen, after 7 seasons, let go by Indiana over the weekend. Everyone, this is one of those rare times where everybody loves the coach, but just realizes, hey, it's time to make a change.
Well, it just wasn't happening. 3 years after 2 bowl games that Indiana played in, when it looked like the program was on the rise and made strides. They had an 8-4 season prior to the COVID year, in which they went 6-2, and he was the national coach of the year because of what they were able to do in beating Wisconsin, Penn State, and Michigan that same season in the COVID year. But we know that there were mitigating factors there with a lot of players that didn't play or decided not to play or couldn't play because of injury. All those factors were involved there in that second season. But from that point forward, things just spiraled downward. And obviously the Penix year, his last season at Indiana, they win just 2 ball games. He didn't look like the same football player that we've seen before or since, which obviously he's had tremendous success in Washington. But that being said, that whole season, I think, kind of destroyed everything that 2 seasons of success built up. And then you come back with last year, which was just a 4-win season. Again, you had to win a big upset win over Michigan State at the end to get that 4th victory. And then this past year, just 3 wins. Again, only 1 in the Big Ten. Those kinds of things destroy the confidence level that people have in what you're doing. And after 7 years of being the head coach at Indiana, the administration felt it was time to make the change. They apparently negotiated down the contract of his payout to $15 million rather than the $20.8. Donors obviously stepped up, which is what the statement has basically indicated. And it was time for the change in that sense. I feel bad for Tom. As you pointed out, he's just a great person, and he's a fine man, very much a Christian man, and a guy that really taught or built a culture there called LEO, love each other. And I think those players bought into it. But it didn't transfer onto the field all the time. And that's the big problem with this program right now. And they had to make the change. I think it had to be made at this juncture. You go through another year like this next year, and I think the program would be in the kind of trouble that you couldn't get out of. So this is the time frame that you had to deal with, and they've done it. And now we'll see exactly what the hire will be, because that's going to be hugely important. And who they get, who knows? Because when you look at it right now, you don't have a tradition-rich program. You're not going to get a big-name coach probably to come to Indiana University and be a big factor for this program right away. It just doesn't happen that way. You're going to have to build it again, and it's going to be tough to keep some of these players without question with the transfer portal. But some of them will be here and next year, and it'll be something, a nucleus to build around, and we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, we've already seen Dexter Williams and Brendan Sorsby into the transfer portal, which would be the 5th.
How do they even? I mean, they can say they're going to go into the portal, but they're not in it yet.
Right, that's what I said. That's what I said. It's it's because when your coach leaves, I think you can go in early.
Interesting.
That's what I was told, because I said the same thing you said yesterday. I'm like, wait a minute, it doesn't open yet. And then I was told if your coach leaves, you can enter it, or maybe it's just you can declare.
Yeah. I think it's announcing that you're going to enter. I guess you can do that anytime you want to.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know what that does? That opens up the doors for people to come talk to them, I guess.